time for Be All You Can Be right here on the Beat 99.9.
But today is not about Chris. It's not about myself.
Definitely not.
It's about Nigeria. It's talking about our love for our nation, especially with the elections coming up. And there's a lot of energy in the air. Everybody is screaming for change. You know, but the question I ask myself is, yes, change is fantastic. We all want change, but change from what to what? If you change from a man that is a lunatic to a man that is a killer or a serial murderer, that is change. So we need to be qualifying exactly what change we desire, what change we require. And you know, I've known our guest here for a decade, over a decade, and there's a man that I dare say is our own 21st century activist. And you know, there's a quality about activists. They stand on the side of truth. You know, they weigh what is true for one side and weigh what is true for the other side. But, you know, genuine and honorable activists, they stand on the side of truth. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce my very good friend, Gbenga Sesan. He's in the studio here with us.
Thank you for having me, Lanre.
So this is Be All You Can Be, and we're positioned to talk about how we can help Nigeria be all that Nigeria can be. And I know that you're a man that is given to truth. You're a man that is given to history and using history and what is true to try and project, you know, the future. Now, you know, what is your sense of what Nigeria is, of who Nigeria is, the potential of Nigeria, and why we are where we are as a country called Nigeria, and where we desire to be, and how we can get to where we want to be?
Okay, I mean, so the word potential actually scares me these days, because I've heard this word since I was in primary school as the way to describe Nigeria. And then I got into engineering and I understood the difference between potential and kinetic energy. And for the first time, it hit me that Nigeria has always been described as a country that could be great. We've had all the right adjectives. We've been called the giant of Africa and all that. But for some reason, many reasons, one of which, you know, which is very popular in terms of leadership, because we've not really had the opportunity. We've not been fortunate enough to have someone who says, you know what, this is where we are right now. This is where we need to be in the next few years. And I always tell people that if you look at the way young people get educated, you can tell if a nation is preparing itself for the future or not. You look at the Nigerian educational system and you realize that a generation ago, parents literally filled forms to allow their kids to go to study what you call professional courses so they could earn money. Now, you know, people go, you know, fill forms to study something that can help them get a job when they graduate. There is no coordinated strategy to say that Nigeria of 2015, in the next 20 years, we need 3,000 engineers, we need 14,000 musicians, and then we begin to educate based on that. So we have what could be best described as organized chaos, and it's organized chaos because in the midst of the chaos, you know, people have found some islands of sanity for themselves. So there is no coordinated power generation. I get my own small generator. There is no good education. I make enough money to send my kids abroad, or at least to a private university. There is terrible health care. When my wife is pregnant, I make sure I save enough money to send her abroad. The emotional support I should give her being there, it's okay, you know, she can be on her own because she has to be outside the system. The roads are terrible. I increase the size of my car. And so we've become a nation where, you know, there is no social contract between the state on one end and the citizens on the other end. So citizens have, you know, gone on their own to take care of themselves, unfortunately, and this can never help folks.
Wow, this is quite interesting because, you know, I've been exposed to, the Western civilizations and developed countries, and I understand that, you know, nations are built by everyone.
Absolutely.
You know, leadership, government, and the people, the private sector. You know, and you've spoken so eloquently about, you know, the fact that we need a good social system, we need a good educational system, you know, and a good health system, and all of that. That is focusing on all the things that we need. Now, looking at it from the perspective of, you know, it takes everyone. to rebuild a nation, and we're the precipice of, a transition to another, government. We say that right now we practice democracy, power of the people, by the people, for the people. But that's not really what it is that we see. So let's look at leadership. Okay, you said that these are the things that are the problems, and these are the things that we need to begin to solve. Now, from the landscape in the political terrain, who do you see as an honorable leader? Who do you see as honorable leaders? What party do you think can deliver this? We say that activists and genuine activists are the guys that stand on the side of truth, who are not afraid to speak the truth the way it is.
Absolutely.
And I know that that's why you're here. I know that's why what you live for. And we want even our listeners out there to think through all the things that we've been talking about, and to begin to write down their questions, think about what their contributions. Gbenga is here, I am here. Which party out of all the parties that we have, right, can take us to the promised land? Can any of the parties take us to the promised land? Do we have any of the leaders in the parties, right? Are they honorable? And what are the qualities of honorable leaders? What are we really, really looking out for? And, realistically, really and truly, where are we going?
So let me start with the context of where we are right now.
Yeah.
So we're in a situation where we've had a political party in power for a few years, not too long, just 16, depending on how you look at not too long. And there's a record of things that have been done. There's a record of things that have not been done. And when you consider the things that have not been done.
Hello, this is Be All You Can Be with the Catalyst. You've got Gbenga Sesan.
Hello, morning. My name is Mecca here. I'm a lawyer. Your question about the way will take Nigeria to the next level, and I think that's what your question is, right?
Yes, it is, sir.
Yes, I think when you look at the performance of the PDP in the last 6 years, let me keep it at that, under President Goodluck Jonathan, you discover that they have made so much promises, but none of those promises can be seen to have been fulfilled. I think we need a change, and that change must come, and it must come in the name of APC under Buhari from February 14, 2015. They have so much stuff for the people of Nigeria. When you see the house, and that house is constantly leaking and leaking and leaking, I think the only alternative or the best solution is either you change the roofing sheet.
We've lost Emeka, and he was going to give
That
us
was
an
very
analogy.
interesting. Yeah.
Sound analogy. Emeka, we get you. We understand what you're trying to say. That when the roof of a house is leaking, now there are different things you need to do. It's either you change the leak. Hello.
Hello, good morning. Yes, this is Be All You Can Be on the Beat 99.9 FM. How do you want to contribute to our discussion this morning?
I kind of disagree with the last caller in a way, because one has to actually ask themselves, what has cost the things they promised not to happen, the promises they made not have been kept. It's not that our president hasn't made any attempt to keep his promises, but then you should know that there are some sabotages, especially if you think about the Boko Haram attacks and everything. Most of the time I listen to the radio and I hear their campaign advertisement.
Yeah.
And they keep asking why is Boko Haram more funded than the Nigerian army? And I'm like, who exactly is funding the Boko Haram? Are we voting? Who are we voting for? I'm not saying that Jonathan has done all he has promised to do, but the other APC of Change Party, are they actually promised to want to change what? That's the question I want to ask. People are not asking the right questions here. People are not seeing the full picture. They're just seeing a part of the picture. Let's not deceive ourselves, It doesn't make any point. We should not jump from frying pan into fire.
Wow.
That's what's clear.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Now, what I hear is in line with what I've been saying, and you are saying that you want to change your dog to a cat, but you need a real man in the house. So because you can't get a real man, you would rather have a cat instead of your dog. And another thing she's saying, based on follow through from what America is saying, is the roof is leaking. Is there sabotage? Is there someone that is puncturing the roof? So if you change that roof, the roof will still continue to leak because there's somebody that is causing that leak to happen. So do you want to go to the heart of the issue and deal with the trigger and the anchor before you change your roof? Because if you just advocate to change your roof, it will be temporary, right? Because if the crux of the matter, the trigger and the anchor is still there, then you still continually have the problem. But let's have Gbenga, land based on his own perspective about honorable leadership. Is there any party that can deliver this for us?
So I'm glad that I've heard a number of people say ask the critical question. I love your analogy in terms of the roof leaking. Let me say first of all that the next political party that leads Nigeria for the next 4 to 8 years will not fix Nigeria. But that political party can decide to stop the trend of things that are affecting the nation. And one of the things that I have said is the fact that over the last few years, let's focus on the past 5 to 6 years when we've had President Jonathan, for example. There are 3 things I've asked. One is on security, the other is on corruption, and I'll explain, and the other is on the economy. The first on security is because that is the primary responsibility of government. It is in the constitution. The primary responsibility of government is to secure lives and property of the citizens. And there might be sabotage. In fact, the president at some point said, government had been infiltrated and all that. But reality is the buck stops at the table of the commander-in-chief. If the things that have been said on the campaign, things like, oh, it's probably sponsored by this or that person, we've seen all these articles. The question is, why not do your job as commander-in-chief and bring this person to justice? Unfortunately, impunity is one of the reasons why criminals in Nigeria continue to do the things they do, because they know for a fact that somebody is not going to do something. In fact, the biggest demonstration of what could have been justice, or what would have demonstrated, to my second point of corruption, that we do not condone corruption in Nigeria. We've seen the reverse. We've seen a case where somebody was punished for being corrupt, and the president used his mandate as commander-in-chief to say, you know what, yes, you were corrupt, yes, you stole, yes, you served your time, but I pardon you. I basically say to you that you are an example of what I represent. That's the way it's read. Because reality is this, it's all for the optics. That's one in terms of security. The other is in terms of corruption. Half of the reasons why we can't pay for the things that we need to pay for in Nigeria today is because even when allocation is made for it, somewhere it's missing. The Nigerian military is not as weak as it appears to be. One of the reasons today why it appears to be weak is because there is a corruption in the system where the people at the top take off the cream of it, and then they leave nonsense for the guys at the bottom. Okay. And there's little motivation for you. And the third is in terms of the economy. I don't need to speak about exchange rate right now. I don't need to speak about the fact that we're basically broke. I don't need to speak about those things. And the question is, over the last 5 years, forget all the adverts. Anybody can build roads. And I'm very upset, by the way. I feel insulted when someone says to me, I built roads, it's called transformation. Why did you contest to be in office in the first place if you can't fix the things that are basics of life? So these are the 3 things I would measure any government on: corruption, security, and the economy. And my verdict on the current government is that this current government has failed on those things. And then I can then go to the question of, do I think there is a leader? So we've got 14 contestants right now, contesting for the office of president. And I know that people will say, why focus on the presidency? Why not the National Assembly and all that? I will focus on the presidency because historically and context-wise, the most powerful man in Nigeria, who can literally make anything happen, is the office of the president. The people that he puts around him, his advisors, are the most powerful people, literally, because they can make him do and undo. I know we've got the balance of the executive, but we all know what happens with the presidency and the executive. We all know what happens with the judiciary and the executive. And so we've got 14 people. Now, I am not going to look at the last 12 for a very simple reason. We do not need a president who is going to come into office and cannot work with a judiciary or with the legislature that would understand what he or she is doing and be able to say, you know what, either because we're within the same political system or because we are biased towards you, we will work with you. So the problem we will have is that the PDP and the APC are the two parties that literally have the structure to make things happen or to serve as opposition.
Okay,
so I'm looking at a two-party system of the PDP and the APC, one in power and the other becoming a strong opposition, because whoever loses on February 14 is going to become the opposition party, and it's going to be one of the most effective that we've seen in recent times.
So in your own opinion now, right, who do you think, that represents both parties is a leader of honor? Do we have any one of them that is honorable enough to meet the criteria that the truth speaks about an honorable leader?
I would say, without batting an eyelid, without closing or opening my eyes, that Major General Muhammadu Buhari, who, by the way, I'm volunteering to work for during this, as we go towards the elections, is the man that I've seen of the two of them that represents the closest. People have said things like, oh, maybe we don't have the best leaders contesting and all that. But unfortunately, there will be only 14 names on that ballot. And of those 14 names, there are two who have the structure to deliver on their promises. And of those two, Major General Muhammadu Buhari is one man. And I'll use the three things I used to measure Jonathan. One is in terms of security. Now, we have a major problem with Boko Haram right now. So the question is, in his history as a military man, did he ever do anything to crush? I know he's been accused, as maybe, partial towards Boko Haram and all that. But guess what? When he was head of state, the Masisane sect struck. And in his own words, and in facts that we've all found, online, offline, and everywhere, it is clear that he dealt a huge blow to them. And so he's done this before. That's one in terms of security. In fact, some people accuse him of doing it too much. But this is democracy, thankfully. The second one is in terms of corruption. I believe that leadership is about living by example. I do not believe that a leader is a man who says something and is seen to do otherwise. For the many years that Buhari has run for the highest office in the land, I have not heard one time that anyone has said, this is how much Buhari stole, this is the proof he stole the money. In fact, what they've done many times is to say that all he says is I will fight corruption. So in terms of corruption, it's demonstrated it. What I found recently about Major General Buhari, I was surprised to find out that many of the entitlements that he should have taken as a former head of state, some of them he has refused to take because he thinks they are much more than he should take. In fact, once when I heard that as a former head of state, he wasn't able to pay some money for a particular property in Abuja, that made me ask questions. Which former head of state would own up to say that, I don't have enough to pay for this? Some people have said, that could mean he didn't manage his money well and all that. But I've looked through the records. I've looked at his time as PTF. I've looked at his time as president. I've looked at recent times, even when he wasn't in public office, and he speaks clearly to me that this is not a man who wants to come to touch, the public purse or would allow anyone around him to do that. And the thought is in terms of the economy.
Wow.
Now, people have said
you are very, very, it's obvious that you're very, very passionate about this particular topic, the issue, you even banging on the table while you're talking. It's okay. Okay, we're back on Be All You Can Be right here on the Beat 99.9 FM, and the topic seems to be like flaring emotions up right here in the studio. The catalyst is still right here with a big grin on his face, and of course Gbenga Sesan. This is where I jump into the discussion and ask a couple of questions.
Yeah, so...
Yes. Basically right now, last elections we had, the social media wasn't really that, didn't really have that much impact, but right now, we've seen the social media, the internet, the fact that practically every Nigerian has direct access to an internet-enabled phone. We've seen the level of involvement step up completely, by 100 or maybe even 200%. Everybody can be involved in the discussions online. You have the hashtags, the trends, the elections, and everybody has what they want. Everybody's contributing in their own way, and we've seen emotions like really flare up, and propaganda and everything involved. So what do you think about the involvement of the social media in the election campaigns, and also the controversial raising of funds issue?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I'll start with that. That's something. So you've got APC as a party and Buhari as a candidate, so they're using technology to crowdsource money. And what it did is not something that has not been done before, but for this particular election window, it's innovative. Asking citizens
in Nigeria too.
In Nigeria.
It's new in Nigeria.
It's yes. I mean, so people have done this for other things, but for elections to say that usually people donate 21 billion naira in one night, right? Because they've got all that money. Some of it they don't have, some of it in advance because they get it from government, who are their friends. But interesting enough, this is that APC has said, just give us 100 naira so that you can have a stake as a citizen and say that I supported your presidential campaign, and so I can ask you questions. And unfortunately, an independent regulator said, stop it. Thankfully, APC has gone to court, and so I can't say too much about this, but I know that at the end of the day, it will go down in history that at a time when citizens had a chance to use technology, they did use it to support the person of their dreams. And speaking generally about social media not being too active in 2011, so I said to people that all these things talking about social media and technology started sometime around 2009, not because that was when the technology was available, but that was about the time we began to use it really seriously in governance. So the president was sick and people began to ask questions. Oh, we're seeing 4 Qs again, we're seeing no power and all that, and such that by 2010, when the president died and the vice president at the time, who is President Jonathan right now, wasn't sworn in as acting president, people went on the streets. But before that, people used social media to express their opinion. And going into 2011, during the elections, we had the Revoda mobile application to monitor elections. By 2012, we saw this become a mass movement in Occupy Nigeria. By 2013, where people used social media to call people to come to the rallies, to monitor the rallies themselves, to report the rallies themselves. By 2013, we began to see citizens use the same platform to save themselves. So somebody has cancer, you raise funds for the person online. So we had the Save This Person, Save That Person campaign. By 2014, we saw one of the most important ones was Bring Back Our Girls, where one tweet from an event was retweeted by someone else and then went all over the world and became a movement, such that every day in Abuja and every Saturday in Lagos and in some other cities, people come physically to have discussions. And going into 2015, that is the same momentum of social media involvement we're beginning to see, where people are saying we will use technology. What we know as young people is technology. Many of us don't have as much resources to put up billboards and all that, but we've got this technology that can allow people. So, for example, I have a few thousand followers on Twitter, and one of the things I saw going into the elections was the fact that there were too many lies about Buhari online. There were too many lies offline. And what we decided to do as a team was basically set up a simple website, factchecking.ng, fact-checking. So any lie about this candidate, we will dissect it, we will do our research and put the information there. So accusation of being a religious bigot, accusations of not being qualified to run for office and all that. These questions were answered using technology. And what you would see is that once we post the answers, somebody sees the answer, somebody shares it on Twitter, somebody then takes it down to WhatsApp, shares in WhatsApp, via WhatsApp, somebody does SMS, somebody could print out and take, I've had people who send messages and say, please, can I get this thing, on one page so I can use it in an argument? The facts.
Right.
Can I use as an argument with my other friends?
Now, I'm following your train of thought, right? And as a coach and as a performance coach, I'm interested only in results. So you've talked about social media being used for Occupy. Yes. What was the result?
2 things. Okay.
1. 2 is we've talked about social media being used to ask questions, where's our president? When Yaradua was ill. Now, I know that many things were happening at the period where we were doing Occupy. A lot of people were popping champagne, taking Ashwebi, using it as a social, tool to do parties, at certain locations. And I also know that, commentaries do not change the result of a football game. No matter how much commentaries you make. Now, which brings me to motive and intention. A lot of people can make a lot of noise on social media, but the truth of the matter is, one, what is their motive and intention? Two is, does that change the game? Knowing fully well that we're in a Nigeria where, you know what, it's not the 30, 20 million people that are active on social media that determine, you know, who gets into office. We're 180 million people, and we know that it's the people at the bottom of the pyramid that you know, are used as tools, you know, to elect people into office. And people, you know, vote for people just simply because of a bag of rice, just simply because of a recharge card. We know what happened in a lot of the states and how political leaders get into office. Now, we're talking about honorable leadership, right? Now, do we condone that? Now, a lot of people have asked the question, and there are two questions I want to ask as we round up, right? And on social media, they've asked it. They said that, you know what, Jonathan has not performed. Will Buhari take us to the promised land? Then, you know, people have said in the course of the weeks, you know, talking about corruption, you know, they say that he who walks with the wise shall be wise, or show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. So people mention names like Rotimi Amechi, Tinubu, Atiku, you know, people that they accuse as having, you know, touched or are judged as corrupt are the guys that are funding, supporting, and pushing Buhari. How does he separate himself from this, you know, what I call velvet handcuff, and say that, you know what, I am a man that is not corrupt, but if you check the records of the guys that are putting me in office, the guys that are driving my campaign, the guys that are really truly the guys that own the system that I'm riding on, right? You know, how can I, you know, position, and how can I do the things that I promised to do? And it brings to remembrance, you know, when Obasanjo was going to run into office, you know, then he was on a platform, and, you know, there was a system. And when he got into office, he was a hostage. You know, he couldn't really deliver until his second term. Now, they're asking, you know, what are the answers to this question? And so what's your position?
So I'll talk about the corruption issue first, because that's the one that I can't do anything about, really. That's the one where I would trust that the man's antecedents would help propel him. I know for a fact that there are compromises that people make to get into office, and like you said, there are times when some of those compromises tie your hands. But I want to believe that we've reached a stage in Nigeria where some of those compromises were not made because of selfish interest. So the reason why you make the compromises also matter. So if the compromise is made because you want to change a system, then it gives you, as the person who benefits from that compromise, so if you become president, it becomes easy for you to say, you know, to the people who sort of worked with you and are seen not to be up to par, it becomes easy for you to turn around and say to them and say, listen, you're not up to par, we made this promise, and because I'm a man of my words, I would write on those words and I would do what I need to do. So
Buhari may turn against the people that put him in office, one. Or two, the end justifies the means. And, you know, it justifies the people that you surround yourself with. If you say you're an honorable leader, does that make you qualify as a man of honor? Who is a man of honor? From you know, what are the qualities from your own perspective of a man of honor?
Okay, so I would say a man of honor within the Nigerian political context.
No. What we stand on is the side of truth.
So
not within the Nigerian.
So the reason globally, a man of honor is a man who can say, I will do this, and would deliver on the promise regardless of who is offended by the delivery of a promise. Even if the person who is offended is somebody that you had to work with in order to change a serious situation. That's what I believe. That is what I would expect. And one of the things that I said, so we had this volunteer event with Buhari, and I said this to him clearly. I said, we're voting for you and Professor Oshibajo for one reason, because we hang the expectation of a new Nigeria on your shoulder. You need to start the work. I don't believe that is the perfect change agent that will change everything in 4 years, but I believe I've described both of them as the storm we need before the calm of starting the work we need to do. And I said to his face, that if you, contractors will come around you and all those guys will come around you, if you allow them to take you hostage, we will come for you. And to the second point of saying, okay, that's the first question you asked about social media.
Can it create change?
Can it create change? Commentaries. One of the things that I have seen with social media is, first of all, it's gotten a group of people who were never really interested in elections now interested. That's the middle class. It's getting them talking. And reality is, I have seen social media content go from just the elite space of social media to this public space through radio programs, through television programs, even to town hall meetings, even to flyers. Somebody makes an infographic, somebody prints and takes to his own community group. So I believe for a fact that no conversation is lost. So when people say things like, Occupy Nigeria, what exactly happened? I say two things happened. Number one is that the conversation moved from, I'll create my own island of sanity and then I'll be fine. It moved from there to, we need to rescue this country, even if we don't know how to do it right now.
So what I hear you say is that we're evolving. We're not there yet. It's going to take many years for us to move from where we are to where we desire to be. And in that context, if you had one last word to voters out there, what would you say to them?
I'll say, please make sure you get your PVC. I've said to people that the power to vote change is PVC. So if you don't get your PVC, you don't have your power to vote change.
Do you have your PVC?
So that's what I was going to. There are people who INEC says data was lost and all that, but you must so
yours was it one of the missing ones?
Was one of those
wow.
So that's interesting.
So I'm the only authorized voter right there.
So the point is, you must continue to insist. So I still go back to the ward. I call the people I know at INEC and I say to them, guys, you need to up the game. You need to make sure that even if it comes to as long as my name is on the voters register, which it is, then it means that constitutionally I have a right to vote.
Even with your old...
Even with my temporary voter's card, I should be able to vote. And my final word to people will be this, to say that if you run an organization and that organization got into the red, what would you do? Most serious organizations would say to the CEO, the buck stops on your table, you're fired.
Or they may get him a coach.
If they got him a coach 4 years before, and the coach, tried to help, and by coach we mean people you surround yourself with as ministers, as special advisors, and in 4 years you are not able to deliver, or in 1 year you are not able to deliver, and critical things like the abduction of children begin to happen, or critical things like losing territory in your own country, the integrity of your nation, when that happens, you fire the CEO. Unfortunately, there is the fear of what the next CEO will do. But what you know is that this sinking ship can stop at 10 meters below sea level, and that the next person will be under pressure. And what I say to voters is that support change, because even if anyone wins this 2015 elections, whoever wins would not run Nigeria the way previous presidents ran Nigeria, because there will be the pressure of citizens that will demand that we're impatient and we want to see change.
So Gbenga, what can we do? Whoever wins, whether PDP or APC, what can we do to hold government accountable? and for me, right, that is what government and governance is all about. When the people are empowered, or the people take power, right, and legally, right, are able to hold government accountable. And February is the month of love. And so we want to test your love for Nigeria. And we are taking a position and we are saying that, do you love Nigeria? Do you love your neighbors? Do you love yourself? Because if you love your country, you love Nigeria, you love your neighbors, you love yourself, you will stand on the side of peace. So there can be no option for violence.
Absolutely.
Right? You will stand on the side of unity. You will stand on the side of progress. You will stand on the side of peace, of unity, of prosperity. Now, we are saying that as Nigerians, we have a responsibility to keep our nation together, because Nigeria is not that geographical space, it's not the land. Nigeria is you and I. And so if we come against ourselves, if we fight one another, we are fighting Nigeria, we are destroying Nigeria, we are splitting Nigeria. We don't need to physically split. We can psychologically split, spiritually split, emotionally split, and we can destroy one another. So on one last note, Gbenga, do you stand on the side of peace?
I do, absolutely. I've said that there's no reason why anyone should get violent on behalf of any politician, because no politician deserves not even a scratch on their body.
Yes, so thank you very much. This will be all you can be.